Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Marshall here, and today I'm bringing you a cast between Nimzo and AndreasG. This time on PAX Frontier, one of the 1v1 maps. This game was actually took place in the last ranked season, but the map carries over, and I'm told it's a good game anyway. Let's have a look. AndreasG spawning in on the north of the spawn planet here, using his customary purple beast commander, going vehicles first on this planet here, adjacent to a large lake between the two spawns, at the opposite end of which you've got Nimzo in his customary orange. I think that's the Potbelly com. Yep, Potbelly is his customary as well. Bots first into 3 fabs into an air factory, into what looks like 3 P-gens into the 3rd factory. Firefly out first to get a good little bit of intel, sees what's going on, into a Spark and Pelican ready to try and snipe some fabs. Meanwhile, Andreas only gone for a double vehicle fab start, following it up with a spinner, possibly a 3rd fab. Yep, straight away. Nimzo getting a little bit of vision off there with that Firefly, sitting, waiting. He sees that there's been a little bit there. He's just going to move it around a bit so that he sees when fabricators move off to another location. He'll probably want to move it again. There we go. He sees a couple of fabs on the move. In comes his Pelican ready, but he'll also see the spinner there, and so won't want to drop right on top of it. There we go. The second thoughts. The additional micro that's happening. And he thinks, actually, can't do that now because he's got a turret up there. He's going to take that back and think for another time. Meanwhile though, let's have a look at what he's doing down here with his fabs. He's got 2 expanding together with docks in one direction and then 2 in another. So he's supplemented his fabs with an additional, and then he's going to be sending them off in a couple of different directions around the land portion of this map here. And we can kind of have a look over that there. Metal kind of spread apart, but equally you can try to lock down some regions by putting up some factories to sort of project a bit of force and statement. But here we go. The drop occurred as they moved away from the turrets. We did get 1 fab snipe there, which is better than nothing, but didn't hamper Andreas quite necessarily as much as Nimzo was hoping. Meanwhile though, we see Orbital coming up from Andreas. Interesting, Orbital as a 3rd factory there for Andreas. Will he be going to the other planets or the gas giant, I wonder? Either which way, it is a fabber first. Of course, orbital fabricators can now build metal extractors. So if you wanted to, you could go and send them to another planet without building a teleporter and still expand to the metal thereon. Nimzo though now down to his 4th factory, vehicles, after going naval, bringing up some barracudas and some piranhas into the middle there. Orcas locking down a couple of those piranhas to save the expanding fabricators from Andreas. Around the backside of the planet though, static expansion as you would expect, and Andreas is on his way to the moon. The moon. Whereabouts on the moon? Is he a polar moon? I can't see where he's... Aha, there it is. Right above there. So, we're just going to go back to the other planet there. The spawning. And have a gander. I don't see any teleporters coming up, so I don't think Andreas is going to be getting some fabricators over there. He'll just be using his orbital fab to expand to the metal at the moment. Nimzo though, coming in with an additional bombing run, takes out both of those vehicle fabs. That's a nice big win for him there. Prevents any further expansion on land. Losing a few bombers to spinners, but still, a double fab snipe there is more than worth it. Andreas starting to lock down his position in the water here. Doing that with a couple of bits of static defences. We've got the torpedo launcher there and some Galata anti-air coming up, and we've got some more Orcas coming out as well. 2nd naval factory, just to make sure that Andreas knows exactly that he is in the better position in the water here, because what players tend to do on this map is if they are going orbital and suffer a bit of a setback, they will use the water as their main fortress, as it were. So now that Andreas has lost out on his that expansion there, he's going to start trying to really cement his safe space on this planet, as it were, and that will be this this naval section there. Here we come with Astreus. Are we going to be picking up the commander? It's been auto-rallied to the center of this pond here. Really needs to be going and picking something up, but we do have the Hermes scout coming out. We'll be able to see exactly what's going on in Nimzo's area, where we can see the T2 factory coming up. And another raid from Andreas. Nicely done there. A few metal extractors down. Not too much more damage is going to occur there. The commander is there to defend it. I don't think he'll get sight on that T2, but he does see the commander. And that will be that. Combat fabs for the Trico, and air for the superiority and the scout. T2 naval for Andreas to secure his position over here. Now again we see this Astreus, rather than picking up a commander, I think it's looking for one of these two fabs when they're finished building that P-gen. In the meantime, let's go and have a look over at what he's doing on the moon. As expected, he's literally just getting his metal up. Rather than necessarily sacrificing his eco in the short to medium term in order to get some jigs up on the gas giant, because they're a bit expensive to get up initially, he's just going to supplement what he can do at the moment on the starting planet over here, rather than put himself at an unnecessary disadvantage in order to get that economy from the gas giant at this stage in proceedings. Nimzo, though, not leaving any stone unturned, expanding all over the land portion of this map here. You see the fabric counts have been supplemented. We've got a triple expo train there, a double there, and the T2 is up and ready. Slammers and locusts are going. And loads of vehicle fabs as well. Goodness. And of course, as we tend to see now with all of these maps, with the balance, is the assisting of a single T2 factory rather than necessarily building loads of T2 factories. So here we've got a Typhoon coming out for Andreas, getting the metal storage there, as we did notice he was floating earlier. This Typhoon will allow him to start to attack Nimzo there. The thing that Andreas needs to worry about, though, is his air superiority. Typhoons are great if you've got extra air superiority, because of course the squalls, the drones that they shoot, are classed as air units. And if your opponent has air superiority, you're going to be too busy fighting air as opposed to ground. Now here we come, a bit of Nimzo raiding here. The locusts reveal themselves, down they go towards the turret that's starting to turn around, get a couple of shots off before it's chewed up, and two locusts will remain in order to go and chew a little bit more. Here we go again, coming in for another laser turret engagement. It's only a single point this time, so it will go down. Very squishy are those single pointers. Astreus there, still not doing anything. It's just sat there, taunting Nimzo, saying, yep, your air micro needs to be ready for when I drop down to the planet and pick something up. But what we do have are these narwhals by Andreas. Now that's very perceptive, because remember what I said earlier about the air superiority of Typhoons? Well, narwhals deal with the air. That being said, Typhoons seem to be used as a defensive measure in this instance rather than an offensive one, as we've now got Leviathans coming out in order to start to project power across this sea. Nimzo, as of yet, still not going into orbital, bringing up loads of his advanced armies now in loads of different locations. Still needs a little bit more in the ocean to really deal some damage to Andreas, but Andreas now needing that little bit of extra economy. He's slipping a little bit as he's starting to build all of these factories here. You can see his fabricators trying desperately to get some power up. in order to bring him back into positive efficiency there. Below 50% is not where you want to be. He is, of course, still in the orbital space. I don't think he's got anything on the gas giant yet. And that is a negative. Of course, on the moon, he's more or less over there, free. Squalls from the Typhoon, dealing with the sub-defense, but here is the main problem for Andreas right now. The Slammers coming in, dealing with all of the factories and economy on land, pushing Andreas firmly back into the ocean. But of course, the Leviathans are very nice and handy for defense in this instance, with those long arcing shots. Will stop Nimzo from getting too close. What he does need to do, though, is stop Nimzo from taking out these little bits of economy that he does have, because, of course, you know, you don't really want to lose more than you need. Here we go. Is Nimzo playing any harder into the water here? So we've got 2 naval factories, one being assisted and going harder on the air. Andreas still getting this nice little bit of vision over Nimzo's base with the Hermes, as long as he's got power. I clicked that right the wrong time because it went from green to red. There you go, you can see his little bit of extra vision there. He can see where the commander is. He can now see that T2 Naval has started, and he's going to see all of this defense here as well, not least by Hermes, but also by the drones that keep popping out of this Typhoon, dealing rid of damage. Of course, the Galata now is the problem for those. Leviathans should be able to deal with that. Probably wants to rotate them a little bit so that he can start getting the rear turrets engaged as well. Of course, Leviathans work best at the broadside, because here you can only get the firing arc on those front 2. A little bit of extra micro there would be better for Andreas. Meanwhile, though, in the main base, still Nimzo pushing in there. Andreas losing that T2 vehicle startup, but Nimzo not getting any closer to where Andreas really is, and that's because of all of this naval defense now. So at this point, Nimzo is going to need to commit heavily into air or the water, or start to go orbital. He's really trying to commit into the water here. Has he committed anything else in terms of orbital on land? He has not. He's just growing the resources, keeping up pace with Andreas and outstripping him in places, because of course Andreas only has the slow movement speed of these orbital fabs going to these other planets. Has he gone to any others? Started getting the metal planet over there and the lava planet as well, so free expansion over here for Andreas. But still, nothing on that gas giant. We'll move these around a little bit now. So you can start to see pretty much what's going on, and that's a GG from Nimzo. Andreas managed to push through this little forward base, look. That was really what was stopping Andreas getting any closer with these Typhoons and the Leviathans, and the moment he started to push in on those Galata, the moment those torpedo launchers went down, there wasn't anything he could really do about it. The T2 Naval wasn't going to be going up any faster. He was struggling for power. Down goes all of his naval production, had no further naval forces, and didn't have the means on land in order to get into the water. I reckon if he'd gone heavy slammers, he probably could have gone into the water from here to try and get a commander snipe, because there wasn't a lot in terms of torpedo defense in the base here. And that could have actually done a lot of damage. But instead he tried to do the sniping game from the coastline there. I reckon slammers would have been a better bet. And actually got into the water, head towards the commander down there, because if we go down to land there, you could probably actually get a good few torpedoes straight through all of those hitboxes right from that iceberg crossing. You can get under those boats, straight across, and bonk, there is the commander. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed that game. I've got a few more casts on the way. I've got a lot of backlog, so expect to see a few more on the channel coming through. And don't forget to follow my Twitch page. There's going to be the King of the Beast tournament this Saturday at 1700 UTC. Don't miss it, folks. We've got AndreasG facing off against Discrape, the top 2 ranked players from Season 7. Anyway, until then, folks, I've been the Marshal. Have a good one.